Alright, welcome to this first little bonus thing here where we talk about the stuff that I've been watching that I didn't get to talk about on the show, or maybe not elaborated on it that much. Here's my recent Letterboxd watches that you can have a look at. I think last week I talked about I mentioned Bumblebee. I think I didn't really mention Ali Wong and her stand-up stuff. I feel like the first one was the strongest, and then just kind of went further down, although it was funny that she was pregnant in the first one and then the second one again. But the last one just felt a bit like rambling. Had to watch a couple of movies that were part of like a film festival run, and I had to select one of them to play in the theater where I work in the programming. It was also a contest where one of them would end up winning the like prize from the distributor that put this on. Yada yada yada. Long story short, I selected White Plastic Sky to be shown in our theater, and it was quite interesting, like a future, dystopian future where water has really become a issued commodity to come around, and people after the age of 50 are basically transformed into oxygen more than water is a limitation here, is turned into trees that they then end up using as resources. And it's a really interesting story. It's also animated, and it was compelling. I liked it all the way through. It had some really great visuals. Like, it blends that kind of dysmorphia of nature and something that we're afraid of in an altered state of being, like death, into something totally else that, you know, is still alive but in a very different way, but then also used again as a commodity. And I think it has a lot of different really interesting topics that it tackles, and I quite enjoyed it. But that's just on the festival run right now, so it will be a while until some of these come out. Ooh, giving away what's coming on later. But that's that. When it melts, Normal. I think I can also recommend Normal. Out of these, the rest I think you can kind of skip out on, which was quite an interesting little movie about a 14-year-old who cares for her dad, who's like, his health is deteriorating, and it's like a coming of age tale, and I think it's done quite well. So can recommend Normal. Then I watched Tropic, that was also part of this. And then for the first time ever, as part of our Brothers Film Club, which I can pull up over here. There you go. Oh, don't leak stuff that is not public. Although this is a private little club for those who are interested. But we are doing Brothers Film Club. My little brother just turned 17, and in celebration of that, we are doing movies in 17s. Which means like 17 movies on one theme, next theme, and then whatever by the end of it. But we are currently on the Letterboxd 250 run, catching up on some films. We watched Stalker before. I was very confused, but did very much enjoy it. And now watched Ingmar Bergman's Autumn Sonata, and it was really captivating. It's essentially about a mother and daughter that have been estranged from, I guess, the way that they remember. She remembers her childhood, and a very absentee mother that was focused on her career and kind of on the overall like performance and what her daughter turns into. And it kind of tackles the repercussions and ramifications that this had on the daughter, and it has some really great building moments. Like, it takes a while. It's only an hour and a half, but it takes a while to build up these characters. You just get moments in between them, like kind of what's at stake here, what are we building towards. And then once we get a first type of resolution, or like first type of conflict between the mother and daughter, I think that's the strongest moment in the movie, and it manages to build on top of that to give us not just like an explosive moment in their relationship of something that has been unspoken now being openly spoken about. Still not totally open, because they're still closed off in some ways and apologetic, and then like that push and pull is done incredibly realistically for the resentment that you might have towards your own parents, that is still like so packed with love as well. So it was like an incredibly complex, beautiful film. That, yeah, it's definitely art house. You know, it's not the latest Transformers film, but it is something that I can recommend. And I'll grab this real quick, actually. I did recently get the entire, I'll switch to the main view for this again. I did recently get the entire filmography of the one and only Ingmar Bergman. It doesn't focus on this. And it's all of his films, the Criterion Collection, and yeah, I'll be making my way through. Oh god, this is huge. I'll put it in the middle here. I'll be making my way through his filmography. There's a few other ones that I really want to catch up on. I've only seen Persona, parts of Scene of a Marriage, but not the whole thing yet. And I want to catch like both the TV version and the movie, and now Autumn Sonata. But he's got some incredible films. But yeah, that's that. By the way, later today, I will be rewatching The Thing. And yeah, this movie, by the time now, I think has been kicked out of the Letterboxd 250 because of that new rating thing. I do have to switch back to that view. I'm a bit of a dummy. But the docs will, due to those changes, it was like number 5. But that was like, a lot of it was like botted and one accounts only ratings and whatever. You do see a lot of like 2 stars here. So I'm not really looking forward to that one, I guess. But it was, at the time of the creation of this list, still part of the Letterboxd 250. Anyways, a couple more movies that I caught this week, because this was still from last week. Watched The Wrath of Becky. That was a good bit of fun, but it does have a lot of like these moments that stop the show to show, hey, she's so ruthless, and that's crazy that she doesn't give a fuck. And that didn't really work for me. I just like, I was taken out of it. And it does have like that moment that a lot of like these female-led movies tend to have, where like the closing thing is them looking at camera, and sometimes it's even accompanied by like one broad statement that clarifies to you, this was a badass woman for this and that reason. And I don't really like that, because it feels really pandering and reductive, because I feel like everything that came before has to stand by that closing thing. Then you wouldn't need that closing thing. And often these movies kind of do need that closing thing to make that statement by the end of it. This one didn't need it, so it was just like a nitpicky thing that I didn't like. But yeah, it was alright. Then I watched The Big Short. I haven't seen it before. I don't think I'm the biggest fan of Adam McKay, like at all. Especially after this, there were a lot of things about it in the way that it was presented that I don't like. The whole narration thing, which I don't know if that's might not be essentially like an Adam McKay-ism, but yeah, it was alright. I just wanted to see that story be done slightly differently in a lot of moments, but it's interesting. I guess at least it's interesting. Then A Man Escaped. I'm also trying to watch a couple of movies, some older movies, usually daily, but I'm not really getting to that as of yet. Maybe my schedule will allow that at some point in the future. But A Man Escaped, A Man Escaped from Robert Bresson is one of the original, I assume, just like jailbreak stories, essentially about French resistance fighter during the World War II, who engineers a daunting escape from prison, and spoiler alert, the man escaped. Maybe alone, with someone else, we don't know. It's a good movie. I wouldn't call it an amazing movie, but essentially, specifically for its time, 1956, I feel like it does stand out as something that is stylistically quite interesting. I mean, you're on the verge of some great filmmakers like Kubrick making one of his earlier films here before he got to like some of the classics, and you do get a really interesting vision in A Man Escaped with a lot of like close-up shots and a lot of time passing in a narrative way that is compelling. So I can recommend it. It's also streaming on the Criterion channel. Next up, Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken is a movie that's set to come out. I said major Lanacona coming of age energy that drowns itself by trying to be the most of its time movie ever. And yeah, it does have a lot of like timely references where it is going to be dated in 5 years. It's also got like the most predictable story that it possibly could have, but it's not really trying to be any different. I feel like this is a movie for like the early teens girls who maybe aren't as experienced with movies yet, and then it's like a slightly older character in high school, something that they think is cool, like similar to All the Boys. This is like for the same crowd, and for that I think it's fine. Toni Collette is like the mother character, and they give her a bit more to do because it feels like she's Toni Collette. She can do some moments. I didn't notice Elijah Koshy. I totally forgot what character that she plays. Will Forte, Coleman Domingo. Like there's a good cast in here, but I was a bit underwhelmed. And yeah, and Jane Fonda is the grandmama. It's alright. It's got some interesting visuals, but one of the okay-ish movies of the. I mean, I gave the Super Mario Bros. Movie the same rating, but for, I guess, DreamWorks standards, it's more. I didn't like Kung Fu Panda that much. It's no Puss in Boots. It's more on the side of like the Madagascar level, but it's not as bad as like Shark Tale. All right, dude, there's so many movies, and don't even get me started on the series, so this might be a longer video, which I guess does make sense. Imagine this in all of the main show. That would be horrible. Sanctuary. I guess I can just read you my review. A cat and mouse game where the cat turns into an elephant, but then steps on the mouse's tail. But then the mouse's tail turns into a rhino horn and shots at the elephant and presses it against the wall. But then the elephant shrinks down to a mouse, flipping the whole thing on its head, ending as the rhino turns back into a mouse as they embrace each other and find a delicious piece of cheese attached to a mousetrap. So that's this movie. It's like a delicious back and forth between Margaret Qualley and Christopher Abbott. It's a really fun ride, and I can really recommend it. Next up, I want to just skip this one, but About My Father, I wanted to like this a bit more. But what did I say? Voiceover that will make you kill a peacock. Yeah, that's a reference to the movie. But with Robert De Niro in the titular role of what's his name? What's the name of like Meet the Parents, like Meet the Folkers, like that type of stuff, but cranked up to 11 with how Italian it is as it plays the dad of Sebastian Maniscalco. And it's funny at times, but then it also kind of lost me with how broad it is. But it does have a lot of like funny moments, but it has some equally like really cringe bad moments. The whole thing is also narrated, and it does often like explain you what you just saw or try to add to something, and it's just there's just not a lot there, unfortunately. But yeah, it's pretty mid comedy. You Hurt My Feelings, new A24 film I can recommend. Didn't write anything down because it's hard to just say, I guess, what I think about it, because it's conflicted. I think it's really good. I think it had moments where it had me at like a 4.5, then dragged it down into like so 3.5 moments. But Juliette Louis-Dreyfus and Tobias Menzies are really good in this. It's like basically a really healthy couple that doesn't really have a lot of issues. He is a psychologist. He's a shrink, and I forgot what she does. Oh yeah, no, she's a writer, of course. That's the whole premise of the movie, that he doesn't like what she wrote. And it's essentially could be very broad and simple, but it does manage at times to really go into the nuances of how you would resolve something like this, where someone you respect isn't truthful to you, and then you try to kind of come to terms with maybe your own insecurities that you have on you and the way that you see yourself through other people. And I feel like all of that it does capture quite successfully. So yeah, I can recommend. I think it's also an A24 production, but it doesn't say here, but it's in distribution, at least not a production but in distribution. You Hurt My Feelings. All right, let me take a sip because Oh boy, we got a couple more to go, and then we'll talk about some TV stuff to round it up. But damn, 15 minutes already. All right, so Rounded. I was kind of bored with this one, so I wasn't paying a ton of attention. But can't really say much. I just was like, new movie, me see new movie, me watch. But Letitia Wright was given quite a bit here. I was incredibly bored. And for one of the last performances of Michael, no wait, am I mixing up with? No, yeah, with Michael kind of Williams here. I don't remember him being a big role in the movie even. But yeah, that's that. I don't know. Can't recommend it if you really like westerns. Maybe it's interesting to you. This is the same case of, hey, new movie, watch it. I've never heard of Peter Atencio or whatever. Also haven't seen Keanu. I haven't heard great things about it. But yeah, him, the draw here is Mark Hamill as his dad, as he plays the machine. And he, like, it's the broadest Russians, the bad guys, relive the glory days type of self-aware comedy that is repeated by the same jokes over and over again that were never funny in the first place, and it just runs it down until there's just nothing there anymore, and it was just incredibly unfunny. And yeah, didn't like it. City Lights was a bit lower than most people on this. Yeah, Raging Chap, because he boxes Raging Chaplin. But I think these more body comedies where like your whole body is acting, and it's a bit like, you know, the unspoken thing, the back and forth, the anticipation, like that type of stuff. Those early movies can have their flair, and, you know, being kind of the antithesis to the recent sound development that's shaped Hollywood, like really at the turn of the 1930s, and going against that with his own movie. I think his directorial debut as well for Charlie Chaplin is interesting, but like the whole story of like the romance I found weird. I didn't like. There's like the whole plot where there's a blind girl that he's into, and slight spoilers here, by the end of it she's not blind anymore. And I mean, Mr. Beast just did it and cured a bunch of people of their blindness because it's a simple operation, but it feels, I mean, it's 1931, so it yeah, like disabilities, whatever, you know, there's way worse things that happen in film that aren't really considerate, but it was just like, ugh, I didn't see it in any way. I saw someone else like comment it was like really romantic. Yeah, charmingly romantic, and I feel like this movie is not romantic in the slightest. The whole shtick of like the one guy who's drunk who forgets him gets kind of repetitive as well, and there's really fun moments, but I don't know, I can only take so much of Charlie Chaplin at a time, and it works better for me in short stories, and I didn't really love it in this, although there's a lot of like great dances of staging and performing in it. But yeah, it's all right. Same was with Bon Travail, which is really like, I guess it's, I don't know if it was in the Letterboxd 250. I know it's on the BFI list as probably Claire Denis' best movie. And I really didn't like Stars at Noon. I quite liked High Life. In the same, I think same way, yeah, 3.5 I gave to that as well, that I did with Bon Travail. Just a bunch of military people. It's like framing colonialism through the eyes of just like this bunch of recruits in Djibouti, and it's about the Djibouti. I don't know why this is such a big, like, apparent, like, I don't know, a queer film that didn't really come out to me. Like, it obviously focuses on these guys and their physicality and like their relationships, but it was just, I don't know, something didn't click with me with this movie like as much, where I was like, oh, this is like amazing. But yeah, certainly worth watching though. Then The Perfect Find, the same beats over and over again. That's essentially what this movie is. The back and forth of like she's dating a younger guy that's her boss's son. We've seen it done countless times, and it's nothing different here. I thought it was just kind of broad and bland, and I guess what Netflix is doing a lot. And right after that, I was like, hold on. Through My Window was an incredible piece of fan fiction media, like a adapted Wattpad story. I also read up a bit, not on the filmmaker here, but the writers. No, fuck, I clicked on the director again. Oh, wrong windows. God damn it. The writer. Is it also someone different? Jesus. Like on the base material. I don't know. Oh, original writer. There we go. So she has like a book out. It's, I think, called the Wattpad story. Wattpad story, which, if you don't know, Wattpad is like the smut site where people can write their own stories. Like the after series is based, I think, on a Wattpad story. And yeah, this is a sequel to the Spanish softcore porn over on Netflix. I mean, it's less rapey than all of the 365 stuff, the Polish thing. But it is equally, I think, bad. At times I was like, oh yeah, this is a 1.5, which is a great endorsement for a movie like this, but it just ends on tragedy for no reason whatsoever. But yeah, we'll get another one. It's bad, but there's nudity. If you that's all the bar that the movie has to clean for you, there's naked people, then maybe you'd enjoy it. No Hard Feelings does offer that, but maybe even more than that. I wrote down that it feels a bit poor, in poor taste to have Matthew Broderick in a movie where this many people are on the hood of cars as they're like driving. Which, if you don't know, Matthew Broderick did kill someone for careless driving, and did not, I think, paid a bit of money, but never served any time, although he was drunk and killed someone. If you didn't know. But yeah, No Hard Feelings. Jennifer Lawrence goes all out. I mean, I talked about this one on the podcast as well. It's pretty funny. I think it did have a better comedy in it. The dramatic beats between these two works a bit more than just the broad comedy strokes that it tries to do. And yeah, it's quite entertaining. And then lastly, Late Spring. Yeah, it's such a sweet story. It's not a sweet story. I don't know. Ozu is hard to describe because he's that filmmaker that does just the ordinary and bring out the humanity for each of the characters. He brings out the best of his actors as well, and you start off in a way where you not, at least for me, I'm not like super intrigued in the story because there's no big inciting incident here. She's just at a bar and someone tells her that they've just remarried, and she kind of thinks that's disgusting because I don't know, I can't really figure out this character from what some of her motivations are, if it's more her own ideals of that she wants to oppose marriage, but then she's kind of stuck in this patriarchal structure of being dependent on being needed with her dad, and that's kind of what keeps her from marrying herself. But there's no sort of independency that she has on her own. It's always attached to another man. That's why, like I said, it's tragically patriarchal, and it's super interesting story, and I really loved it, and I can fully recommend it. It's a really slow film, but I just love Ozu. I love someone who's really Ozu inspired, like Kore Eda. I've seen Tokyo Story before. What else have I seen? I've seen a couple of his films, and all of them are like very similar. Yeah, just his three most popular ones. Good Morning as well. I watched that for a film class. But yeah, I mean, I've seen his strongest ones now, I think, but really great filmmaker that I'll check out a bit more of. So let's switch to full cam because I don't want to leak my actual. I can show you very briefly, but you only get like a sneak peek. But this is what my thing. Oh, it doesn't even show. Never mind. So I can't do it. You won't see. But I do have like a thing where each episode of TV, and whenever it gets like a separate rating and this kind of, because you can't rank it all on Letterboxd. But I did watch a couple of things. Let's go back to maybe, I haven't talked about The Summer I Turned Pretty. I binged the 2 seasons there. That's all right. It's just like hot people and their troubles, but I don't even think like I don't want to get into that, but I don't think like everyone is like as interesting as it sets out to be for the characters that they are. But yeah, I watched The Last Thing You Told Me. I'm working on a video going over all of the TV shows I watched like for the first half of the year, so maybe I'll talk a bit more about those there. But yeah, Julia Garner has been invited to a bunch of roundtables, and I feel like her performance was just kind of okay, and it's also an okay series, so I don't know why she was invited. I feel like she's not going to be, I would be surprised if she's like in contention for some of the awards. First 2 episodes of Secret Invasion, attended the press screening there, not press screening, the press conference with all of the cast, so that was exciting at first for me. And I liked the first 2 episodes. I mean, there's quite a few like implications that come there, like some fatalities that happen that might be interesting later on for the type of story that they do. But it also feels like they could very much go very broad and Marvel-esque and not make it interesting, but we'll have to wait and see. I think at the time, yeah, well, this is not going in the main review, but I could have talked about the new season of Jack Ryan, the last one. It's like a 6 out of 10, pretty good, better than season 3. Probably better than season 2. It's fairly entertaining and not as great, not as good as season 1. I think none of them have been great, but it's that. Been watching Platonic with Rose Byrne and Seth Rogen, about like their rekindled platonic relationship. It's really fun over on Apple TV Plus. Go give that a try. Watch Stan Lee. The documentary felt really clean in a way that it shouldn't be clean. I found it kind of boring. I'm a Virgo over on Prime Video. Fun show where there's a fuck off tall guy, and he's like in this heightened universe where there's like superheroes, and it's just a very odd show. I can recommend that one. Watched the new season of Prehistoric Planet. That's just dinos. I liked it. Talked about Black Mirror. The first couple of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia were fun. Like all solid 8 out of 10 episodes. There's only 6 episodes this season. Haven't caught up with anything beyond episode 3, so we'll be doing that. Watched The Crowded Room, show with what's her name, Amanda Seyfried and Tom Holland. Feels very like we got a story here, a mini-series that is gonna be up in awards contention, so that's why like you got big names there. But so far I think it's really boring, like a 5 out of 10 show to me. The Idol has gone terribly bad. I think I was kind of entertained. Maybe it was because I was sitting next to Lachlan at that screening where they showed us the first 2 episodes in Cannes, but I thought episode 3 was abysmal, like a 2 out of 10. Then I kind of found it funny that The Walking Dead is also like doing yet another spin-off. I haven't kept up with it for years. I haven't seen the last 2 seasons, but I think I kind of binged through, like skipped through the last couple. But then there was a new one that's called The Walking Dead Dead City, and the first episode was pretty bad. 4 out of 10. I started watching Vinland Saga. It's hard to find time to watch something like anime because it does take a lot of like attention and time because there's just so much happening usually on screen. But great so far. I've been up to episode 7-ish somewhere, so we'll be finishing that now that it's wrapped up its 2nd season on Netflix as well. Watched Mo, comedy show. It's really fun, like a solid 7 out of 10 for that whole season. Pretty good. Watched The Last Flowers of Alice. Actually finished that last night. Story about like an Australian series over on Prime, and it is about domestic abuse, and it is quite bad. I feel like in the way that it tackles that, like the kind of a roundabout way of like the circle of violence kind of repeats itself, and it does that in a really clunky way. Got like Sigourney Weaver in one of the supporting roles, and it just is a bit meh. It doesn't really know what to focus on. Talked about second season of The Bear. Can wholeheartedly recommend it. It's like a solid 8.5 out of 10. I just really didn't like episode 6. Gave that like a 6 out of 10. Just the whole cameo fest, over the topness didn't work for me. Also talked about Skull Island, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's all I've been watching. So damn, that was a lot of movies, 30 minutes. So glad that wasn't in the main episode. But there you go. Big, extensive overlook at what I watched. And we'll be watching a couple of things, not as much next week. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks for supporting us. Have a good one.